All right, BB Nate, today is a very, very special day.
It is. It is actually a first for us.
Right? I mean, it's not like we've ever had the chance to interview the producers of a Star Wars animated series.
Okay, we better be careful here. People are going to think that Dave Filoni is coming on the show.
That would be cool. But this is pretty awesome as well.
And so is getting the chance to see a new Star Wars series before it releases on Disney+.
Yeah, it really doesn't get much better than that. And we will be giving our spoiler-free preview of Star Wars Visions next. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody was
So, I mean, I think we're all in agreement in which our favorite episode of this is of Star Wars Visions.
Tatooine Rhapsody, right?
Tatooine Rhapsody was fun. It's on Tatooine.
Great.
It's got Boba Fett.
It's got Boba Fett.
Everybody already knows all that.
Yes, we're not going too crazy.
Yeah, but in the end, that wasn't our favorite episode. No. But we'll talk about that coming up in a little bit. Welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast. We, again, as you just heard in that intro, the only fan podcast.
Fan pancast.
That is named a canon Star Wars creature and been endorsed by Rian Johnson. And so some people really love our show because of that, and some people really don't love our show, and we don't care. That's fine. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of this generation, that there is a story. It is written. It is on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story. And that is why we are honored to have received the opportunity to screen and review every episode of Star Wars Visions in the lead up to the release on Disney Plus coming tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, that's so cool. It's something we never really believed we'd be given the privilege
Exactly.
to do.
And don't forget that extra bit of content. Are we allowed to talk about that yet?
Well, yeah, we are. The embargo's over. As of the time that this releases, the embargo is down. So we can make an announcement. Right here. You may not have even heard this yet. It may be out on Twitter. I don't know. Social media might have been posting it. But not only is Disney Plus releasing these amazing shorts that everybody has been anticipating for a while now, but there's also a series of featurettes celebrating the amazing studios and the directors who made them. So it's going to be...
it's really cool.
Awesome. The featurettes were
really
they were a lot of fun.
It's so cool to hear the directors and the studio heads talk about their love for Star Wars and how it inspired them to do what they do today. And we're going to talk about that as we go forward. We're going to be giving our non-spoiler previews of each short along with our overall thoughts on the series in just a few minutes. But before we do that, we have got a couple of absolutely out of the galaxy guests that are joining us. Let's welcome the executive producer of Star Wars Visions, James Waugh, and the producer of Star Wars Visions, Kanako Shirasaki. Welcome to Tatooine Sons. We are so excited to have you guys on here. I know you guys are doing dozens and dozens of these interviews, and they're happening back to back. So rather than a lot of pleasantries, we want to honor your time and just kind of jump straight into our first question. Here you go, Sam.
Well, Star Wars Visions is a new way of looking at a galaxy far, far away through the lens of Japanese animation. The influence of Japanese filmmaking on Star Wars goes all the way back to its beginnings with George Lucas's love for Akira Kurosawa. The Jedi Geki inspiring the name of the Jedi, and then the Jedi Code pulling from the Bushido. So why do Japanese culture and Star Wars fit so well together?
I to your point, it is woven deeply into the fabric of the DNA of Star Wars. George was immensely influenced by Kurosawa, but Jedi films in general and samurai dramas. Concepts like Buddhism influence the Force. So I think, there's something there that aligns really nicely with it. But I would also say anime has been a big influence at Lucasfilm. And, definitely Lucasfilm Animation. George was an anime fan as well. You see its influences in our comics and our games and our live action content. And so in some ways, we've been influenced by so many of the art forms coming out of Japan for so long that it is such a part of our storytelling that I don't think it's a big stretch.
Yeah, and vice versa. So many Japanese animators and creators are heavily influenced by Star Wars, and so many people love Star Wars. So the feeling is mutual, and the episode 4 is a striking visual. Like, it did influence so many young people in Japan too, like who want to be animator later or creators. So so the influence is coming like both ways.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So also, one of the things that so many fans love about Star Wars is that the stories are rooted in a connected universe, but along with that, the universe comes rules. But Star Wars Visions is free to take some crazy risks, like a Star Wars rock opera and Tatooine Rhapsody, a droid who wants to become a Jedi in TOB1, and the return of Star Wars rabbits in Lop and Ocho. In your opinion, what's the craziest idea that made it into Visions?
Oh man. I don't know. Twins, a lightsaber cutting a Star Destroyer.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
I don't know how you out crazy that. I'm really glad that we have a framework that allows for a Star Wars story that can do that.
Yeah, I would say the dual lightsaber that Ronin held. You never seen you stored lightsaber into the scabbard, so that is something very unique coming out from the creator's vision.
That's awesome.
Definitely.
You can't tell a Star Wars story without, you've got Princess Leia, in the original trilogy, and she's constantly talking about hope, that found itself into Rogue One. You've got that with Anakin as a little boy. He's got hope that he can, go into the stars, and become a Jedi. And we see that again also with, Rey, a scavenger in the sequel trilogy and everything else that's along with it. For you guys, how does Star Wars inspire hope?
Well, I think Star Wars is ultimately, it tells mythic stories. It tells kind of like basic fables that inspire, I think, all of us to be our better selves, or to show us the consequences of greed or anger or hatred. And all those, the stuff that leads you to the dark side. That's the easier path. So I think it inspires by teaching through storytelling. But I also think, the two sons moment with Luke Skywalker is fundamental to Star Wars as it gets, and it all through cinematic language of Luke dreams of a better world is ultimately what that is, whether it's leaving the rock and leaving Tatooine and going into the galaxy. But really what it is going to make a difference. And to me, that's what Star Wars is all about.
Yeah. And also, lots of Star Wars stories are featuring the heroes and heroines, or the nameless hero and heroines helping others, reaching out their hands to someone in need. And you can see lots of story like that in Star Wars Visions too. So that's also a very universal theme, I think.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much
for letting us be a part of this. We're super excited about Star Wars Visions, and we loved what we've seen so far. I hope we get to see more of it in the future. Mm-hmm. So thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
All right. That was fun.
That was really cool.
Never really dreamed we would interview producers of a Star Wars animated series.
But here we are. I think it still hasn't hit us.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It may take a while. I'm not sure, Sam, but I kind of think maybe your question caught them a little off guard.
I don't think that's a bad thing, though.
Can you imagine they've been doing these interviews probably like for the last week for 8 hours, 10 hours a day. And they get the same questions like, what's your favorite your favorite one of the shorts?
What's your favorite movie?
What inspired this series? And then Sam throws in some Japanese culture questions, and he pronounced all the words correctly.
Yeah, because Nathan did a crash course with me before we recorded.
He came up to me, he's like, how do I pronounce these? I'm like, I'll show you.
That's awesome. So we did. So let's talk a little bit before we jump into our reactions and our reviews and all the fun stuff that come along with this. This is how this came about. It was sort of a joke on Twitter that turned into something real. So on Thursday, I guess it was last week, I started seeing all of these screeners, our Twitter accounts talking about screening it. And it sort of felt like everybody in the world had a copy of the screeners. And that's obviously not the case. Just the accounts that we follow. We don't follow, we follow a few hundred accounts, but we follow a lot of people in press. With that, because that's what we're trying to, we're trying to make sure that our feed is
filled with the latest news.
Exactly. And so I kept seeing a lot of the press talking about the screeners, and it was so much fun to see it. But I was sort of like, it feels like we're the only people that didn't get an opportunity to see this. So I put out a tweet that sort of made fun of that. And I joked that the reason that we haven't seen the screeners is because we don't want the screeners. We want to watch it with everybody when it comes out.
Experience it with everyone else.
And we love all the fellow Star Wars fans like us, and we want to experience it with them. But then also because they didn't send us the screeners, and then maybe mostly because they didn't send us the screeners.
It's funny you mentioned that we wanted to experience it with everyone, because I was sitting there the other night after we finished watching the shorts, and I was like, I wonder what the Beans thought of this. I bet you they would get a kick out of this. And then I'm like,
they're big.
They haven't seen it. Nobody's seen this.
Right. And I was thinking the same thing while we were watching it about the Berettas from Colorado, because Isabel and them they're all massive. Yeah. They love Star Wars and they love anime with it. So all of that led to a message from one of the team at Lucasfilm Publicity that they saw that tweet and they said, here's what you need to do. Send this to us. And we're not going to get into the details on it, but, we'll see what we can do. And then the next thing you know, they reply back about an hour or two after that. BB Nate, how long did you think it was going to take before?
I'm like, it's going to be a few months. We're not even going to get the Star Wars Vision screeners. It's fine. At least we got our foot in the door. They know about us now.
Right.
And we're driving. And Dad gets,
the email
5 minutes after I say that, Dad gets the email.
I'm like, we got an email, and it not only says they're sending us the screeners, but then it also mentions this behind the scenes featurette,
which
series,
nobody knew about, and then mentions that they're willing to set us up with an interview with James Waugh and crazy,
Kanako Shirasaki. So, we've been kind of on cloud nine, about this. We're not, Variety or any of these. And I know that they've been really, really generous with these opportunities for Star Wars Visions, especially. But never did we think that we were owed the opportunity.
Oh,
and so that tweet never really was meant to be anything more than a joke, about the fact that we never thought we'd get the screeners, in the first place. So we were super excited to do this. Now, before we jump into sort of breaking down, giving a snippet preview that doesn't give spoilers for each one of the episodes, I want to get your feedback, guys, on what your thoughts. I'm going to start with you, BB Nate.
Okay.
What your thought process for Star Wars Visions has been, going all the way back to when, I guess it was December of last year. They announced it at the Disney earnings
Investors
Day. And then they did sort of a teaser sizzle reel type thing. And then the teaser a couple months ago, or the trailer a month or so ago, leading up to this. Kind of what's been your thought process regarding this? Cause we're not big anime fans on
No.
We don't even know how to pronounce it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I've always heard it as anime.
Yeah. And then they were on the show yesterday, the featurettes, they're calling it anime.
James Waugh was going anime.
We're going to have to call it anime now. All right. So BB Nate, you go first real quick.
When I first heard of it, I'm like, okay, cool. At least they're doing other things with Star Wars. And I was really excited. It's an animated series. I'm excited to see it because I love all the Star Wars animated series. And we got the sizzle reel. I'm like, this looks like it could be a lot like Batman Gotham Knight, which was just a collection of animated anime shorts, I love it. I've seen it many times.
Which is, to me, similar to the Animatrix, right?
Yes.
Which I loved the Animatrix with that. So I kind of felt the same way when I saw it.
Yeah, I was excited for it. And then like the sizzle reel was released, I think the same day. I thought it looked cool. And then we got the trailer, and actually I got less excited after the trailer. I'm like, okay, now that I visualized it, it doesn't seem like something that I know I can get into. Like, I don't know what this is yet. It's not exactly what I'm thinking of. So I was like, I'll watch it, of course. I mean, it's Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I'll watch it. And then we actually watched it, thankfully, to the screeners. And I was blown away by what I saw. It was absolutely fantastic. I couldn't get enough of it. Some part of me was like, I want to get to the end. I want to get to the last episode. But when I got to the last episode and we were just finishing, I'm like, I want more. I wanted to watch more. And it was just absolutely fantastic.
Right. Same thing for you, Sam. Kind of walk us through your thought process regarding this series leading up to it.
Yeah, I mean, when we were sitting there watching the Investors Day and they announced what Visions was going to be, I was like, oh, that's great for anime Star Wars fans. Like, they're going to love this. We'll watch it, get a feel for it.
Because we love Star Wars and we'll watch anything Star Wars. Right.
But, I mean, it's probably not going to be our thing. But people who love anime, this is so cool for them. Really happy for them, right? Because we were getting enough other stuff with it. I wasn't feeling left out. Like,
and there was, when they start talking Ahsoka series and all the
Kenobi,
other series.
Lando, Andor, all of those.
So Visions to us kind of just was like, oh, that's cool. Now what else?
Yeah. Right. So, that was fine. I don't remember any teaser, so I'm not sure what y'all are referring to there. I'm sure
because you were on the texting with Savannah when it came out that Saturday night. We were watching TV.
You were, actually.
And his girlfriend, if you're listening and you don't know who Savannah is. But anyway, it was like all over Twitter, and I sent it to you guys, and it was a video. It was probably 4 months ago. I think it was in April.
Oh, okay.
With that. So.
But I remember watching the trailer. And I remember like seeing the crazy moments like the umbrella lightsaber and stuff like that and thinking, this is going to be weird. But like, I liked it. I was interested. It looked so out there, yet so Star Wars at the same time. I was like, okay, I'm more interested in this now than I was before. I wasn't expecting to like it or like really like it. I mean, I wasn't expecting to dislike it. It looked fine, but I wasn't expecting to be
because our philosophy, and we really do believe this, all Star Wars is good Star Wars.
Yeah.
So even if it's not your thing, if it's Star Wars, we love it. We support it. We're going to let you take it and run with it.
Right.
And we're never going to throw it under the bus. But sometimes, there's things that are not the same for everybody.
Right. I mean, like the KOTOR games, not our deal all the time, but
we
it's
love
great.
Star Wars.
And then last night we were watching the show, and the best way to describe my reaction was very pleasantly surprised. It was really amazing. Not only was the animation itself visually stunning, but the stories were really compelling and interesting, and it was anime, and it had all of the anime earmarks and everything, but it felt Star Wars all at the same time. It was really good.
The amount that they made you care for the characters in less than 30 minutes was absolutely amazing.
They told movie-length stories in 13 minutes.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
So well done.
It was similar to that for me. I mean, what you described, Sam, with the Investors Day, and it was sort of like, oh, that's cool. Let's move on now to other Star Wars stuff. I hope that everybody that loves anime is super excited about that, and I'm excited for them. That was my mindset. Mm-hmm. Watching the sizzle, I didn't even watch the sizzle reel that came out for like 5 days. I sent it to you guys, and I didn't even watch it for like 5 days after that. That's how little I was excited about.
Yeah,
this.
I think I was the same way or something like that. Heck, I don't even remember it.
You don't even remember it exists. With it. Then the trailer came out, and I think I watched it pretty quick.
You did
when the trailer came out.
It took me a few days. I remember that.
It took me, yeah.
When I watched the trailer, I was like, oh, there's something different about this. It's wild. It's crazy. I mean, again, umbrella lightsabers and
rock operas,
rock operas and TOB1, this droid that looks like Astro Boy and
that wants to be a Jedi.
Exactly. All of this. I'm like, this is bizarre. Then we were preparing for our episode where we thought that was our Star Wars Visions preview episode. That was like 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I read some descriptions of the stories based on the titles and things. And I got excited about the series. I thought there was some really interesting ideas in it. The idea of the duel, obviously the Ronin character there. We'll talk about all of these in a little bit. The twins was really intriguing. What was the other one that really grabbed? I liked the idea
Ninth
of
Jedi.
Yeah, Ninth Jedi.
Well, Ninth Jedi, I didn't think, based on the descriptions that we got, I thought the Ninth Jedi was just going to be a rehash of the Seventh Samurai. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't. At all.
It wasn't, no. Not even
with
close.
that. And then yesterday watching these shorts, well, I'll just say this. We got about 4 or 5 shorts in and we watched The Ninth Jedi. Mm-hmm. And when that thing finished, I was riveted the entire episode.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And when it finished, I just was like, wow. And then I kept watching the rest of these shorts. I kept feeling, thinking to myself, when have I felt like this before? Watching Star Wars. I mean,
just purely in awe. That's the way you can describe it.
And that the universe has just gotten so much bigger.
Right.
All of that, it didn't go the way I expected. It was different than everything I was expecting to see on this. And it was not what I went into wanting to or expecting to see, but I walked out of it thinking, I just have to have more of that. I need to watch those again. I want to see these stories continue. And all of that.
Of course.
And I tweeted this out and we talked about it afterwards because I manage our Twitter account.
No, you are the Twitter account.
I am the Twitter account. The last time I felt this way about Star Wars was walking out of the first viewing of The Last Jedi.
Yep.
I felt like I have to have more of that. I have to see more of this. My mind is just blown over what we just experienced and I can't wait to experience it again. And that's why we saw The Last Jedi like 10 times the next month, with that and everything that happened, as a result of it. So, overall, if you were to, I don't know, is there any way to even give this like a rating, a 1 to 10 rating?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think our system goes that high.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair either.
Yeah, it's here's what I want you to know. If you're 24 hours roughly before Star Wars Visions actually hits Disney Plus and you're listening to this podcast and you're on the fence about this, I have 2 pieces of advice for you. First of all, please watch these things. Okay. Take time. Do it without your phone on, in an environment when you can actually watch them and focus on what's going on because they are beautiful. The scoring is beautiful. The voice acting is just amazing.
At least for the English dub, we didn't have access to the Japanese.
Yeah, exactly. And the visuals are just mind melting. Okay. All of that. But I want you to pay attention to it. The second thing I want from you, I'm encouraging you to do is go in there sort of with a clean slate. Don't go in there wanting it to be something. Okay. This is Star Wars. It's going to feel very Star Wars, but it's Star Wars without limits.
Yeah.
It's a kid in his backyard making up a Star Wars story and thinking, what's the craziest thing I can do with this story and making it happen. And it works. And every short is very different.
Very different.
The animation is different. The storytelling style is different and everything. But if you give it a legitimate shot, you're going to absolutely love it. All right. Let's talk about some of these specific episodes. We don't know what the episode order is going to be, when it comes to the release on Disney Plus. So we're just going to go in the order that they gave them to us, And so we're going to go with that. We're going to start with The Duel. This is by Studio Kamikaze Duga. If you're looking to know about how long these are, we're going to give you the length of each episode so you're prepared for them when you watch them. This one is a 13-minute episode. This is my description, spoiler free, based on what we've seen and the embargo being lifted and being allowed to say it. All right. The lightsaber wielding warrior who comes to the aid of a desperate village in need of rescuing from the evil galactic empire isn't what he seems to be. Dun, dun, dun. All right. I'm going to start with you, Samuel. Thoughts on this episode without spoiling it?
This was the first one we watched. And after watching it, I was like, okay, if that's like the peak, we're in for some good stuff. This was like really, really fun, like really good. And then the episodes just kept getting better from there. But this episode alone has some of the best, fights, I think. And it did things, every episode did something different. So I'm going to say that regularly, but this one subverts your expectations and presents you with some really interesting like takes on things.
Awesome. BB Nate, talk to us about the duel.
I'm definitely gonna pick up the Ronin novel. That is for sure.
Oh yeah,
I gotta read that. But I loved the aesthetic of this episode. The visual art style was absolutely amazing. I loved how it was 3D-esque. But still had the 2D feel of an old samurai movie. I loved the fights, of course. Yes, the fights were awesome. Just everything about it. They told so much and they made us captivated for this village and gave us all this information about this Ronin character that made me want more. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what they were trying to go. And like Sammy, I'm like, if this is good as it gets, this is going to be a great series.
This episode was the Seven Samurai episode.
Right.
This is the samurai coming to town to save the village that's being attacked. We'll talk more about that on the actual spoiler episode when we break this down a little bit later, when we break it down in detail. But here's what I want to encourage you guys to do when you watch this. It is a black and white episode, but color has a major point in this as well. So when you're watching it, pay attention to colors with it. There's lots of different color things that are going on here. I loved this. Again, I'm in agreement with you on this, BB Nate. I want to get the novelization of this. I almost wonder if the audio version of this might not be really special because you might have some Japanese sound like tracks and things like that. The music was in this was really good. All right. The second one in the screener was Lop and Ocho. It is by Geno Studio, Twin Engine. With that, it is a longer one. It's 19 minutes in length. The description that I have written for it is set at the height of the Empire's reign of terror. Ocho convinces her father to welcome Lop, a Lepi slave, into their Yakuza family, which is like a organized crime family. In Japan.
Yeah.
Okay. But years later, Ocho and her father can't agree on the future of the family, and Lop is caught in the middle. Maybe Nate, give us your thoughts on this one.
When this started, I was like, oh, this is going to be cute. And then it kept the story made me care for the characters even more. I absolutely loved it. I feel like, I can't say I feel like this was one of the better ones because all of them were so good. I mean, there wasn't one I didn't like. I think that this episode did something so different while still feeling a lot like Star Wars. What the series did is it gave genius world building to the universe of Star Wars. And this episode especially did that.
Yeah, this episode, I was a little nervous by it being like a non-human character, specifically like an animal kind of character. I was a little worried that it might get weird. It did not feel out of place in Star Wars whatsoever. Even I had forgotten about Jax. I wasn't attributing Jackson, excuse me. But it worked really well. And like you said, the story was compelling. It is amazing what these studios are able to do in such a short time frame. They are able to flesh out entire family relationships in a couple minutes, and you feel like you had spent 30 minutes with watching a movie. It is really good, and this one has some of the most compelling visual scenes of them all.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of. I love the family dynamic. There's this light side, dark side pull that's in the story that feels very, very Star Wars. It's the ending will make you want to see more.
Yep.
I will say that. All right. Next one, Tatooine Rhapsody by Studio, Colorido. I'm not Colorado.
Not Colorado.
It's different vowel.
You could just say Twin Engine.
Yeah. 13 minutes in length. Description: a guitarist on the run from a notorious Star Wars gangster befriends a Padawan who proves to be a kindred spirit. This harmony, you see what I did there? This is good. Results in a band that rocks. But what happens when the galaxy's most dangerous bounty hunter finds them?
Okay, you said a guitarist though? He's a bassist.
Which one? The first one?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Sam's, okay.
Okay, that is the first canon Star Wars bass player.
I will give this to you. I was going to throw this one to Nate, but I'm going to come to you because you've got, I mean, obviously we all have a propensity toward liking things on Tatooine. Of course. Because of this show. But this has got your favorite dude. Everybody's seen this, so they know it's Boba Fett's in the series.
Boba Fett, yeah.
With this. And then, of course, you have a bassist, which you play the bass.
I do.
So give us your thoughts on this one as you wear your Boba Fett shirt.
Yes, of course. This one definitely felt interesting. It was weird. It was a rock opera. And I think it's safe to say it was weird. But that's not a bad thing when I say that, because you've never seen something like that in Star Wars. But it still told, yet again, a compelling story. It didn't compromise your opinions on the already existing characters such as Boba Fett. And, you know, your first canon Star Wars bassist was I don't know. I don't want to.
We're gonna go ahead and claim that.
Yes,
all right, until somebody tells us differently. Matt Martin, if you listen to this, which he doesn't, but anyway, you can tell us if we're wrong. All right, BB Nate.
I thought this one was a lot of fun. I mean, all the others tell compelling stories that make me feel for the characters and have great action sequences. And this one was just a lot of fun. It was definitely a breath of fresh air with everything else. It was really good. I loved the characters. I loved some of the choices they took at the end with the main character. I loved that. The ending was was really good. I thought it was a great way to end the episode.
And Tatooine.
And, of course, Tatooine. And it was
you're at Mos Espa,
Yes.
you know, where the pod race was from the Phantom Menace. You guys have all seen that if you've watched the trailer, so there's no spoiler there. Very much a fun episode, but it does have sort of this really compelling friendship story that
found family.
The found family element is present, and that's the thing that's present in every one of these stories. Every one of them. We talked about this. We got about 3 or 4 episodes in. We had to take a break because Nathan had to go to do something. But we were talking about it, and it was, they all feel very different, but they all feel like Star Wars.
Which is something they've accomplished very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And even this one, which again, how do you what a bold choice to take a character that is so loved like Boba Fett and make him anime in this and take that risk, and for Lucasfilm to let them do that with a character like that. All right. The next one, by Trigger Studio, 17 minutes long, The Twins. The remnants of the First Order have reformed, bringing with it a new galactic empire. But this new empire are believers in the dark side, and they've birthed Twin Force users to prove it. Start with you, BB Nate.
I'm not sure if there's a way to talk about this episode without spoiling a ton, because this episode was off the wall crazy. There was so much that happened in this episode that I can't wait to see how the Star Wars community reacts to some of the stuff in this episode. It was a lot of fun. The action sequences were absolutely amazing. It was beautifully animated. The story was great and compelling, and I want to see more. I think that Trigger had some of the best shorts in this whole series.
Awesome. Samuel, the Hutt.
I will say it is very trippy. That is a good way. You will have to suspend disbelief even for Star Wars for this one. Like that. I will say this, after watching the featurettes, I'm not going to spoil much, but the creator himself said he was trying to go crazy with it. So go into this one completely just ready for a wild ride.
And the Star Wars Last Jedi bombs don't drop in space crowd. They're going to have a field day with this episode.
Have that mindset.
Which is why it's fun to have stories that aren't restricted by rules. Like we talked about in the interview with James Waugh and Shirasaki, earlier. The reality is there's no limits on what they let them do in this. And there was a spoiler in the interview, and you may have picked up on it. And one of James Waugh's answers has to do with this short. So maybe you can pick up on what that is.
But even if you're spoiled, just watch it. Just watch it.
The Elder, by Trigger. This is the second one that they did. It's a 16-minute long episode. A young Padawan and his aging master respond to a distress signal on an ancient planet. An encounter with someone strong in the dark side of the Force results in a powerful lesson for both the master and the apprentice. Samuel the Hutt.
Yeah, this one, It slowed the pacing down, way down compared to other episodes. And that was a good thing. It allows you to see a more intimate relationship between the characters. But again, world building was really well done. They land, all right, I don't want to get into spoilers, but they're able to build your understanding of how the world works and the rules behind it very quickly, but in great detail. And the fights and such were, well choreographed to where they felt more like a samurai film as opposed to something like, say, The Twins, which if you watch it, you'll know there's no way to, attribute it to anything you've seen before. But this one had a very cinematic feel, I think is a good way to put it.
That's good. It was a lot of fun. I think that it's one of the shorts that most easily lends itself towards continuing the story if they choose to.
Yes.
With it, and probably one of the shorts that actually could find its way into some canon stories very easily as well.
Yes.
On that. Next one, The Village Bride by Kanema Citrus, 17 minutes. The Force is everywhere, and all beings can tap into it, even if they aren't Jedi or Sith. Haru and Asu are very strong in the Force, but they have no power. They do have love and sacrifice on that. Start with you, BB Nate. What'd you think about The Village Bride?
I thought it was a very good episode. Again, visually stunning. The set pieces, the wildlife, everything was just amazing. The story was very compelling and it was very grounded, even though for something that we haven't seen in Star Wars before regarding the Force. I feel like the characters that we had, the two main, Haru and Asu, were the definition of a Star Wars character. They had love, they had hope, and they had sacrifice, which is what every main Star Wars character actually has. And so I feel like that this was telling a love letter to Star Wars in a way that they could do it to their fullest capacity.
This one, it took a very interesting storytelling approach, I think. We were watching these people watching these events. So we were like third party observers, but we felt as in tune with the story as anyone. And it again set up some really interesting world building, showing us worlds and cultures that we've never seen before and that you can tell have relations to Japanese culture, but feel like they could be some distant planet in Star Wars. A really, really good set piece or good episode. Sorry.
This episode will look at the Force in a way that, will reward fans of The Last Jedi.
Yes. Very much so.
Because the Force it's not about lineage, or everyone, it's Broom Boy in some ways. There's some Broom Boy elements to that everybody has access.
And that specific locations are attuned to the Force, a lot like Octo.
That's absolutely true. All right. Akakiri by Science Saru, 13 minutes. This is really easy. The Hidden Fortress meets Star Wars in an homage to both Akira Kurosawa and George Lucas. So Samuel the Hutt.
We were watching it, and fortunately we did get to see Hidden Fortress a while
in preparation for the series.
And we were watching this and they were showing little clips and Nathan and I were just looking over at each other and like, this is just straight the Hidden Fortress. We were complaining. It was a really cool homage to it. It wasn't like a straight copy, but there were some things at the end specifically where it went off script and you will not expect what's happening. So good. We want to see this story continue, especially.
I was sitting there watching it and we were getting to like the last couple minutes and I'm like, is this just going to be a Hidden Fortress Star Wars? Which is not a problem. It was really good at that point, but I was like, okay, well, everyone else has like kind of had a cool fight scene. So can we get one? And then they hit you with the end. That is just absolutely amazing. It was so good. Of course, I want to see this one continued. The animation was unique. It was kind of choppy in a certain way. It was very hand drawn. You can tell that. and it made it amazing. I loved it.
And I just want to say, so far we have been like raving over every episode. We have not been told to say that.
Yeah.
We are not in. They were saying you can say you did not like the episodes. That is fine.
A common misconception with screeners is that people are told that they have to like it. They can't say that they haven't liked it. That's not
These
true.
are our 100% honest opinions with these episodes.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was just beautiful. And I love even in the featurette the director and the studio talks about that they just basically wanted to pay homage to Hidden Fortress and Star Wars and the influence that he mentions the Hidden Fortress had such a huge influence on Star Wars, but Star Wars has had a huge influence on anime.
Yes.
And they wanted to pay homage to that, with this as well. This one snuck up on me.
It really did.
When I think about, now 24 hours or so after we've watched it, when I think about my favorite episodes, this one pops into my head along with the next one after that. I did not expect to like this episode. I thought it was a cool idea, but I mean, come on, seriously.
I thought this was like a kids episode, like an episode geared towards kids for kids.
Yeah. TOB1. Which you got some Obi-Wan in there, by Science Saru, again, 13 minutes long. A droid living on a desolate planet with a wizened old wizard dreams of one day becoming a Jedi. It is Pinocchio meets Star Wars.
Of course, I love droids. This episode had many droids, so that was amazing. I mean, watching this episode, the whole time, I was like, this is fun. This is great for kids. It's a great way to introduce kids to Star Wars and anime. It's fantastic. And then they hit you with the end to the point where I'm like, it told a compelling story. It made me feel for all of the characters, even droids who couldn't speak. And it had another cool fight scene. I can't say enough about this series and this episode. This one definitely did sneak up on me.
Yeah. It came on and we're watching it and it has a very different art style from everyone. I mean, the other ones had some similarities, but this one was a completely different style. It gave it a very kids cartoon feel, honestly, in the beginning. Not complaining. Even the sound effects and the way the characters moved, it felt very, very...
The anime style is a very classic anime style. With certain, studios and certain genres of anime, subcultures of subgenres of anime. So it's not like it's out of the norm on that, but as compared to what you expect in Star Wars, it was different. And I think that's one of the reasons it snuck up on us.
But as you're watching it, the story progresses and things develop and characters make decisions and things happen and you are sucked in by the characters and what they're having to do. And in the end, there's a great catharsis with everything. And it was a really surprisingly good episode. Yeah.
The emotional content in this one, it really did rip me back to being a kid.
Definitely.
With this. And
one scene in particular for you.
It was just the idea of being a little, again, I mentioned Broom Boy earlier with another, one of these episodes, but this is like a whole episode of Broom Boy.
Oh, it is.
Where, well, I don't want to spoil anymore. Okay. The last one, when you did karate, Sam, do you remember all the way back in the long time
last
ago?
one, best one.
The last one's the best one.
Yep. I remember
on
that.
this list. I don't know if it was the way that they planned it or not, but by Production IG, the 22-minute, The Ninth Jedi. Centuries following the end of the Jedi Order, 7 Force sensitives are summoned by hologram by a man in a mask, promising to make them Jedi, but things may not be what they seem. All right, just let me stop and say that we are in 100% agreement on this. This is the best of all of the episodes.
100%.
Totally. Most certainly.
Okay, but I'm sorry, I didn't catch this. It's like centuries after... like episode 9?
It's after the fall of the Jedi is what they say. With this.
So it could be before episode 1.
It could be before episode 1. It could, there's Sith, so it's probably not before episode 1.
Spoiler.
You can cut it out.
No, I won't.
just like do a little porg thing over what he says.
It was really good. Go ahead and give you guys your thoughts on this.
It felt like a movie. And not like I compared the Elder one to feeling cinematic. This one feels like a movie in its story. It has twists. It subverts your expectations, and it ends in a way where you are begging for more. Like you have to see what happens next.
Definitely. I mean, this one did sneak up on me. I thought it was going to be a Seven Samurai clone in Star Wars, which is fine with me. But this one changed everything when it came to this series. We watched this one, I think, out of order or something. And I'm like, okay, this episode has changed my mind on this whole series. I'm like, this series has been getting better and better. At this point, it is one of the best things that Star Wars has put out in recent years. It was fantastic. I want to see so much more. If it's in a book, it's fine with me. If it's in a TV show, even better.
This will get you to read a Star Wars book.
This series has gotten me to read a Star Wars book.
Wow.
It's of all of the shorts, this is the one I'm begging you, Lucasfilm and Disney, please don't just do a follow-up to this one. Do a series. I want this story to continue. I want to see it doesn't resolve itself.
No. And it leaves a mission.
I'm begging you, please make this a series.
Yes,
I want this series so much. And turn it over to Production IG. Let them do the series. Let them put it on. You don't need to put any more on Dave Filoni's plate. We know he's as busy as can be with all the stuff that you've got going.
Production IG showed they can do this.
Just let them do this series. I want this story. And it may be, it could easily, if the story continues, it could easily become my favorite Star Wars story.
Would you accept a feature-length film?
Yes.
Hour and a half film.
Of course I would accept it. Having said that, I don't want it.
Really?
All right. It is the Lando moment, right? I would accept it. I hear what you
oh crap, what's the line?
I don't agree with it.
I don't like it, but I accept it.
Exactly. I want a weekly over 13 weeks, 24 weeks, whatever they want to do. I want that time to set between episodes. I want to think about these characters. I'm in love with one of the characters as far as like in 22 minutes became one of my top 3 favorite Star Wars characters of all time.
Okay, this is news to Nathan and I.
This is a big deal. Mm-hmm. I didn't know you liked it that much.
I did. I absolutely love this. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. All right. So we debated how to handle our spoiler reactions to this series.
We did, actually.
There was a lot of conversation about it, at least between Nate and I, because Sam's always on the either doing college work or texting Savannah, which is fine. You know,
it's totally okay.
She's
an
awesome
totally
girl.
Don't judge you.
He's maybe judging him a little bit. But the conversation was, do we do one big episode where we just give spoiler reactions to every one of them? Or do we decide to break it down and do one a week for the next 9 weeks, which is what we decided to do yesterday.
Yes.
And then there was this idea, well, what's the order? Do we do it in the order that they release it on Disney Plus? That type of thing. And we kind of thought that, the Duel would be the first one that they would release. So, that's the first one we would start with. Once this one was over, there was no doubt in my mind, this is it. This is the one we're starting with, The Ninth Jedi. So tomorrow we are going to give our full on. So if you're tuning in right now, we've done our absolute best to try to stay spoiler free throughout this entire process. Tomorrow, if you listen to the episode that's coming out right after Star Wars Visions drops on Disney Plus, please know this. That first episode is going to be all about The Ninth Jedi. So if you haven't seen The Ninth Jedi, know it's going to be as spoilery as you can possibly get, because I got to talk about that episode. All right. I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast.
Yeah, and if you had a good time, it would be awesome if you could share this with your friends and everybody.
All right. And
Just
of
everybody.
course, Tatooine Sons. This show is only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world. So be sure to follow us on Facebook and join the Facebook discussion group. And follow us on Twitter to stay up with all the latest news and keep up to date with everything we got going on at TatooineSons.com.
Absolutely. Don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss an episode, especially our episode tomorrow on the Ninth Jedi. And remember that if you drop us a review at podchaser.com/Tatooine Sons, we are going to make a donation in your honor to one child to help a child living in extreme poverty. All right. Anything else you guys want to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Joy, please.
Yep, yep.